So how about we dive right into this here story here.
Let's do it.
GOP's Matt Gaetz files criminal referral against Zuckerberg for alleged false statements under oath. Now, before you all get your hopes up, this is a good first step, but it's supposed to be an investigation. I'm going to tell you right away what I think. He's just going to be like, oh, I was mistaken.
Of course.
It wasn't intentional. And there you go. What are you going to do?
Too easy.
So they're trying to say basically that he lied. False statements. Let's read it. They say from Newsweek, by the way. Representative Matt Gaetz on Monday filed a criminal referral against Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg for allegedly making false statements to Congress during two joint hearings in April 2018. Gaetz said Zuckerberg repeatedly and categorically denied Facebook engaged in bias against conservatives or censored content supportive of President Donald Trump. However, a Project Veritas investigation revealed the overwhelming majority of content Facebook's artificial intelligence filtered was in support of Trump and other Republican people and ideals. Now, this part's important. It's going to be hard for him to dispute because he'd have to argue he has no idea how his system functions. And that's going to be really bad for their stock and for him as the leader of the company.
That's a good point.
Yes, advertisers, I have no idea what content will appear next to your ads. I have no idea why or how. They're going to be like, isn't that something the CEO should know?
Yeah, definitely.
So he might have to come out and be like, well, we didn't mean it that way. I think he'll avoid, the worst part is he'll get a fine. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, we hereby fine you $50 million. And he'll be like, we made, how many billions last year? Sure, fine. The Republican congressman sent a letter to Attorney General William Barr asking the Department of Justice to investigate Zuckerberg. The statements in question were made during a House Energy and Commerce Committee hearing, and again at a joint hearing of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. Quote, as a member of this body, I question Mr. Zuckerberg's veracity and challenge his willingness to cooperate with our oversight authority, diverting congressional resources during time-sensitive investigations and materially impeding our work, Gaetz said in the letter. Such misrepresentations are not only unfair, they are potentially illegal and fraudulent. Potentially, keyword. Newsweek reached out for Facebook to Facebook, but they have not responded. Zuckerberg told senators at the April 10th hearing that he understood concerns legislators had about conservative censorship because Silicon Valley is an extremely left-leaning place. He said he shared that concern, and it's something he tries to root out in the company. The next day, he responded to a question from Representative Steve Scalise by saying there was absolutely no directive to have a bias in anything we do. To the contrary, our goal is to be a platform for all ideas. Now, that was a lie.
That's what he said in Congress when he was on the stand.
Responding. Well, here's the challenge, though. Our goal. What does that even mean?
Goal, right.
Right. It doesn't mean they do it.
Rather loose.
Exactly. We can do whatever we want. My goal is to have $20 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. We can all, go to sleep and have a nice little dream. During Veritas's undercover investigation, a Facebook content moderator said she would delete every Republican item that showed up on her queue. She added that she doesn't remove anti-Trump content even if it violates the policy. If someone is wearing a MAGA hat, I am going to delete them for terrorism, another moderator said. I think we are all doing that. Now, here's another snag. This, I believe, was a third-party company. Zuckerberg is going to say, Facebook didn't do anything. Third-party company did.
Yeah.
At the time of the investigation's release, James O'Keefe, the founder of and CEO of Veritas, said the findings raised serious doubts about Zuckerberg's testimony on Capitol Hill. O'Keefe added the report called into question Facebook's immunity under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Gaetz wrote in the letter to Barr that the findings of the Project Veritas investigation were in direct contrast with Zuckerberg's testimony that Facebook was a politically neutral platform. Facebook's AI screening content is not politically neutral. Neither are the moderators hired to review content flagged by the AI program, Gaetz told Barr. This stands in opposition to Zuckerberg's congressional testimony and violates the good faith provision of Section 230C2A of the Communications Decency Act. The congressman asked Barr to investigate Zuckerberg for making materially false statements to Congress while testifying under oath and asked for full and proper consideration. First of all, Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, bravo, good sirs, excellent work.
Indeed, that was a good report. There's
so little real journalism going on. Mm-hmm. And Veritas gets ripped to shreds by the media for going after these powerful companies and players. And I will tell you right away, they argue that Veritas is biased. They're conservative. So what does that mean when they go after CNN or the Washington Post or Google or Facebook? Are those companies all left-leaning? Is he biased for going after them? That's a good question, right? The answer is, of course not. He's going after, he's speaking truth to power. He's getting people on the record that are revealing these powerful individuals are subverting our right to speech. Now, I'm not saying the First Amendment, that's a government-related thing, but if they're going to host political discourse and monopolize the commons, the space we need as people to engage in discourse, we got a serious problem here, man.
I was just looking up here. Section CC is protection for the Good Samaritan, blocking and screening of offensive material. So that's what it's under, like the good faith provision. That's what I just checked it out. So
this goes beyond just Well, so this is interesting. It goes just this referral from Matt Gaetz is one of the first steps. I mean, I suppose the first step is having them testify.
Yeah.
This referral is extremely important, even if Zuckerberg says, "Oopsie, whoopsie, I didn't know."
Yeah.
What happens now is they open the door for violations of Section 230, which means Facebook could be sued for literally anything posted on the site by anyone.
That's a good point.
And Facebook is responsible. So because of their biased actions, because we have moderators on the record saying we violate the good faith provisions of this, they straight up say, we'll remove someone for wearing a MAGA hat. Section 230. It's
offensive to them, Tim.
No, but they're not going to be able to successfully defend themselves against a lawsuit saying they were removing objectionable material when they tell the judge he had a MAGA hat on. And the judge is going to be like, how is that in any way objectionable? The president wears the hat.
Right.
Well, we think it's objectionable. Get out of here.
Yep.
You're look.
Oh yeah, they shot themselves in the foot. that if you haven't seen the Project Veritas exposing Facebook videos,
they're lying.
Go check them out. Oof.
So these companies have long been violating the Section 230.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is, I guess nobody is actually filing the suits. I don't know exactly how it would work. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any lawyers in the chat, somebody will say, Adam Krigler called me a big stupid doo-doo head on Facebook.
It's true.
I'm suing Facebook for defamation. Facebook would then have to respond to the judge. Section 230 defends us from liability. I would then, have to respond. Actually, Facebook is in violation of the good faith provision because they choose and remove outside of the confines of the Good Samaritan removal. And the judge would have to be like, okay, or no, and then appeal. I don't know exactly how it would work. I'd imagine it would be something like that. I did talk to a lawyer friend of mine before about this and was told basically people need to start filing lawsuits that specifically drive through the heart of Section 230. The problem is we like Section 230. What we don't like is them abusing it.
Right.
By abusing it, they're able to tilt the whole conversation. Now, I suppose there's a net benefit in the sense that the silent majority exists. And it's been emboldened and embiggened, if you would, by, it's actually a word now, apparently.
Really?
Embiggen. Yeah, it's in the dictionary. Simpsons reference. So the silent majority, I was looking it up, I guess it's a reference to Nixon.
Okay.
Like I think it was Nixon. Was it Nixon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I'm appealing to, the general idea is the people who don't engage in politics but have real concerns, they're not just speaking up all the time.
Okay.
Because of what these social media companies have done with bias and just basically nuking conservatives I got to stop there. Okay. People keep saying it's biased against conservatives. This is important. It's actually not. It's biased against people who oppose the far left.
Right.
Now, because the conservatives are most likely to be the ones standing up and speaking out against the far left, they're the ones who are being nuked indiscriminately.
Yep.
But there are absolutely liberal individuals who will say something about, say, like, trans issues and then be nuked, and they're not conservative.
Right.
They'll get banned. In fact, there are some really anti-Trump people who have been banned for talking about, talking bad of intersectionalism. And even anti-war progressives who have been nuked entirely, like Twitter, purged a ton of progressive anti-war activists. So that's what it's really about. It's like if you oppose the establishment orthodoxy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the whole reason it's a silent majority is these people aren't on Twitter. They're not. I mean, maybe they're on Facebook more than Twitter, but I have a feeling they're not even on any of those things. Did you hear what happened in Chicago when the day after they took down the Columbus statue?
No, what happened?
So they took the mayor of Chicago finally said, all right, fine, we'll take down the statue because the rioters have been demanding it. At 3 a.m.
Yep.
Overnight, they went and snuck and got it
It
out.
was big too.
Yeah, it was
Huge statue.
It was a big statue. So the Italian Americans in Chicago were pissed. They are really mad. They went out and they were like, you know what? We got that statue. We legally wanted it. We like went through the process. We legally got it and did it and put it up for them to give in to the demands of these terrorists that are terrorizing our city. Shows how wrong the government is.
Bro.
And we're standing up. You started a war. Like they're like you activated us, Mayor Lightfoot. Like you did this, so we're coming.
The silent majority is being embiggened.
Is that a word? What is the
definition?
Let
me just say this real quick.
Go ahead.
You said that the guy was basically saying you've given in to the demands of the far left terrorizing us.
Yep.
No, she didn't. She is the far left terrorizing them.
That's a good point. Well, that's not the way they see it, though.
Right, I know. But my point is, if 100 people come out with sickle and hammers all over themselves, and they're yelling Marx over and over again and throw ropes over a statue and try and pull it down, and then the mayor comes in and goes, stop! We brought a crane. Yay! She's with them.
Yeah. You're right.
What do you mean?
It's true, but why do it at 3 a.m? That's just dirty.
To stop the other people from showing up and stopping her.
You're right.
She basically was like, "Hey, all of you crazy terror people, stop what you're doing, please. Don't you understand? We're going to do it way better. We're going to do it at 3 a.m. with a big crane, and no one will stop us."
We fast.
The embiggen reference is Simpsons joke, where I can't remember who it was, Miss Krabappel or whatever. She says, I've never heard the word embiggen. They were watching a story about Jebediah Springfield, the founder.
Yeah.
He's like, a noble spirit embiggens even the smallest man or something. She's like, I've never heard the word embiggen until moving to Springfield. And then the other teacher goes, embiggen's a perfectly cromulent word. Now embiggen and cromulent are actual, they're in the dictionary.
Is cromulent just like perfectly acceptable or something?
Yeah, it means like form-fitting and acceptable or something. Or like,
context is everything.
Here, I've got it right here. Embiggen, to enlarge or grow, or to make or become bigger.
Yeah,
perfect.
All right,
embiggen. I actually I don't know if it existed before and they were making a joke about it.
I don't think that's exactly accurate because it's more emboldened. Like they're not just. I mean, to enlarge, to grow, sure. But it's they're already there. The numbers are there. Now they're just,
the silent majority.
I'm talking about the silent majority.
Well, so the reason why this all ties together is that we talked, last week about this Cato Institute study that found 62% of Americans are afraid to speak about their political opinions. And so you've got strong liberal, moderate, conservative, strong conservative. Guess which one was comfortable expressing themselves in public?
We all know.
The far left.
The only ones, the loudest screamers.
Mm-hmm.
It was the staunch liberal.
Yeah.
And only by about 52%, I think, like half, felt that they could speak their opinions in public without offending anybody. Now, that's either extreme ignorance, like they're really dumb, just like, why would anyone be offended about me saying I'm going to repeal civil rights legislation? You know what I mean? Like, certainly that's offensive to a ton of people.
I'm certainly offended about it.
Yeah, me too. But they don't think it's offensive to say. The crazy thing, for the most part, is when I tell people about this, they don't believe it. They're like, I have a friend who goes out and marches for this stuff and then literally believes that because she, wearing her frilly flower dress, holds up a sign, that we are calling her Antifa. And so I'm like, no. I was like, are you going around smashing windows? Are you going around tearing things down and beating people? No one is talking about you. But I will say, you provide the shield, the mass, for those people to go out and destroy things.
Yep.
So that I will criticize. But when I said to her, I was like, you have to understand why I'm not a fan of what you're doing. I understand protesting police brutality and all that stuff, but you're actively supporting people who are repealing civil rights law. And her response is like, prove it. And I'm like, done. Here's the link. This doesn't make sense. Someone must be getting paid off. I don't understand what's happening.
Maybe that was the response.
Yeah. Maybe you should not go out and hold up, like, you know what, man? It reminds me of that thing that happened at the Cernovich event in New York, where a bunch of Antifa were protesting Mike Cernovich speaking at Columbia. Somebody walked up to the front of the march and unfurled this big banner and said, please hold this. And they did.
Wow.
And it was a pro-NAMBLA poster. Do you know what NAMBLA is?
I don't think I want to know.
The North American Man-Boy Love Association, I think.
That.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Because they did not read what they were flying. The mindlessness of what they're doing Yep.
That's so gross.
Yep.
That movement is disgusting.
Somebody tricked these Antifa into flying that banner. And there's a video of them carrying it for, I think, like a minute or so, a couple minutes, until someone else noticed and ran up and snatched it and ripped it up and was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they were confused, like, what do you mean? Like, we're just holding the banner.
That someone gave us
nicely. Yep.
Ignorance.
That's very nice of them.
Imagine what you must, like, to the people who would go out and fly these signs without reading them.
I said this last month. Ignorance is a really crazy pandemic running through our society right now. Among our younger generation, that's what it really feels like.
Well, it's like you were talking about before. People want to be YouTubers.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and here we are as YouTubers.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's funny. Actually, a friend of mine and I were talking about that, basically saying, like, how can you sit there being a YouTuber, calling out how younger generations, want, like, it's bad that they want to be a YouTubers. It's like, yeah, the difference is I didn't want to be a YouTuber. That's not what I set out to do. I set out to, I was a pro skater, I was, modeling, traveling around the world, doing that for a long time, trying to be a musician, so I had other things. And then you called me and you were like, do you want to do the show? And I was like, all right, I'm not doing anything.
Well, actually, it was
Let's do this.
Remember that show we tried doing a couple years ago?
Yeah, that's true.
Do it again?
We did try. We did try this show.
Now we have equipment.
Well, and we were under someone else's authority. Now we can do we're doing our own stuff,
I would say this. When they say they want to be YouTubers, they're not talking about news and politics and activism.
They just want to be famous.
Yeah.
No,
that's what it is. They just want the fame. They want to be famous. That's what it is.
They think there was this very famous YouTube young woman who like had a mental breakdown after getting like 1 million+ subs.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening is these people don't realize you're digging a hole and you get trapped in it, where it's like, I think about bands that break up, right?
Okay.
I was thinking about like Fall Out Boy. They were moderately big in the 2000s, and they broke up. And then they got back together later. You know why? Because they got sick of it. It was too much work. This is my assumption, by the way. I don't know exactly why they broke up. And they're probably like, I want to do other things.
Okay.
So they quit. Then the money dries up real fast. And then they're like, uh-oh, I really enjoyed having tons of money and fancy living.
Yeah.
Let's go back to working. So what happens to these young people is when they reach this epic proportion on YouTube, it takes a ridiculous amount of work. And now all of a sudden they're trapped where they're like, I have my dream. If I stop now, I'll lose everything. And so they refuse to let it go. And they get trapped in that cycle, become really depressed. And then these people who watch, these kids, they think it's all glory and glamorous. They don't realize it's man, fame and celebrity, all this stuff has always been glamorized.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
it's always just people don't get it. It's not the case.
Newsflash, by the way. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I am certainly enjoying myself. I am. I really, the critical thinking, I feel like I've learned an incredible amount of stuff over the past 6 months, but my end game is not to just do this forever. I would love to further my music career. I still really would like to do that. Maybe I would try acting sometime, or get into politics. I thought about that for the past couple years.
Do you know what the Sword of Damocles is?
No, what is it?
Do you know the story?
I'm familiar with this story.
Are you confident? Do you want to tell it?
I'm not confident enough to tell it.
Well, my general understanding is basically this dude was like, so this guy, right? He walks up to the king and he goes, "Yo, king, you're so lucky being king." And the king's like, "You think so?" And he goes, "Yeah, I wish I was king." And he was like, "I'll tell you what, how would you like to be king for a day?" And he's like, "Well, I'll be king, bro." So then the king is like, "All right, come back tomorrow and come sit on the throne and you're king." He's like, "Dude, awesome." So the dude shows up the next day and he sits down and he looks up and there's a sword hanging by a hair right over his head. And he goes, "Well, what is this?" And the king's like, "That's a sword, about to drop at any moment, being hung by a hair." And the guy is like, "I don't want to be king anymore. I don't want to be king." And the king basically said, you're a big target with a sword hanging over your head that could snap at any moment. Everybody, basically the gist is, when you're doing politics like this, you make enemies. So actually, to wrap it up back to what we're talking about with Facebook's bias. When Adam Krigler does a video where he's like, you say you want to vote for Trump, then it goes up on Facebook and Facebook nukes it.
Yep.
Yeah, because they're like, we don't like this guy. We're going to come after him.
Well, it's funny you should bring up Trump also, because he was told, all his friends were like, people are going to hate you. You're gonna get hated. People are going to run you through the ringer. And he's like, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like the country needs me. And I believe it.
I think it really does deeply affect him, though, because he's this guy who's always like, could you imagine living your entire life with everyone praising you all the time? Hit TV show, your name, big gold letters, everybody loves you. They say the American dream is to be Donald Trump. And then as soon as you run for president, it's like 70 years, 60 plus years of being like, I don't know what it was like when he was younger though, but like he had this period of adulthood where he was the best of the best. Everyone loved him.
That's true.
Now all of a sudden the media was just tearing him to shreds every day.
I think that's coming to an end though, because people are becoming aware of who he actually is as far as outside the media realm,
Yes, but I think the bigger issue is when a group of people romp around your town, smashing everything and destroying your life, you start to ask questions about what's really going on. More importantly, when you notice that, your friends and your family are suffering under the destruction of all these businesses and the media won't talk about what's happening, you start to question, what are they talking about and why? More importantly, when you see far left people in all black smash up the window of your favorite restaurant, and then Jerry Nadler comes out, waddles up to the microphone and goes, Antifa is a myth. You go, wait, what? They just smashed up my restaurant.
Well, he didn't say Antifa. He said the riots in Portland were a myth.
He initially said, I don't remember where he said it, somewhere in like a House committee.
Oh, okay, in a different time. Okay.
Yeah, maybe there's context here. It's missing, but the general idea was that Antifa is a myth.
Yeah.
And then when it was brought up to him by Flecka about Flecka is a YouTuber and personality, about the riots in Portland, he says the rioting and stuff, that's all a myth. It's only talked about in D.C.
Yeah.
And now
it's spread in D.C.
So
crazy.
When you have people in Oregon literally super chatting us during the show being like, I can't stand this.
Yeah.
Like these people need to stop. Trump needs to send them in. It's
that's true. That almost every show they're super chatting us saying, look, I live here and this is insane. We want it to end. I live here. Please help it end.
And you know what the funny thing about it is? I posted a clip from some photos from Michael Tracy's reporting of there's a market. It says, please don't hurt us. Please don't hurt us. We support Black Lives Matter. Nightmarish.
That's sad. Yeah, it is.
It's horrifying. I posted this and I get a response from someone saying, hey man, I live in Portland. Everyone's fine. And I'm like, here's an article from the Oregonian of people who own businesses downtown saying we're suffering.
Yeah.
We need the police to solve because the police are standing down in many instances and only dealing with the riots and the protests. Crime has gone up apparently. General crime.
What a surprise.
Yeah. And so they're also saying nobody wants to show up. Nobody wants to come down here because there's chaos and violence at night.
Yep.
And the whole thing gets destroyed. So people don't show up. Now these businesses are suffering. So you know what? Fine. Maybe for the most part, Portland is okay. But when did we ever be like, we're a nation of 330 million and we're willing to sacrifice those people? Yeah, that 100,000 people in the gutter.
You know what? I'm going to take this moment to just shout out Philip Anderson because he is.
Dude.
He is standing in front of them, in front of this entire crowd that's trying to bring down the courthouse and yelling at him to stop. Please stop. You guys are using violence. And man, there's plenty of videos out there. He's been banned twice on Twitter.
And they're telling him, I watched that video you posted. The Antifa people are like, go home, get out of here. And he's like, no.
Yeah. He's like, no, I'm not going to leave. What are you talking about? Like, I'm here because you guys are here. Like, I want you all to stop. Like, he's like, I'm the person you say matter. So if I matter, prove it to me.
Think about this. You got these people, the silent majority, that don't stand up. They mind their own business. They go to work.
Yep.
And now they're being forced to come out. People like, what was his name? Philip?
Philip, yeah.
Yeah. He's coming out. He doesn't seem like a guy who normally does this. Maybe
no, you're right.
But now now you did it. Now you woke up people. They're getting all angry and they're coming out.
Yep.
And it's, look, man, Rasmussen's polling. Trump is doing better than ever. Maybe it's wrong. Mm-hmm. Could be wrong. Could be a close race.
Oh, he's doing better than ever for sure.
Silent majority is massive.
It's not silent anymore, man. They're standing up. I see it more and more now. Videos of people grouping up. And there was, I don't remember what town it was, but there was a small town in America where there was like a group of 10, maybe 15. I don't want to say Antifa. I don't want to say Black Lives Matter because I don't know who was who anymore. But they were just completely swallowed up by this American flag waving crowd, and I was just, yes.
Did you hear about the dude?
It felt so good to see that.
You hear about the dude who tried to run over the Blue Lives Matter rally?
What? No.
Yeah, I think was that Colorado?
Eaton, Colorado.
Eaton, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
He jumped a curb. They arrested him. Yeah,
wow.
he jumped a curb and like drove at him. People got out of the way.
Wow.
Yep. The people who here's the thing.
They're crazed.
the people who are speaking up, no longer staying silent, they try to kill them,
Yep.
I think there's a obvious reason why they need to make sure they stay silent.
Yep.
To keep the perception that this country is far left. And it's really funny to me when I see these progressive pundits use excuses and manipulative polls to say things like, America really is a progressive country. Here's the proof. They do really clever things with polling, like, they'll ask you, Frank Luntz talks about this, how they'll ask you a question and then draw a twisted conclusion based off what they ask you.
Right.
Like,
okay.
Would you be in support of deporting an illegal immigrant child from this country, like on their own? And then it's very extreme. Most people say no. And then they'll say, 90% of people oppose deportations. They won't give you the full context. So then
course.
And then all of a sudden
Context is everything.
Right.
Yep.
There's clever ways they can do this. They can also ask you questions to guarantee the answer they want.
Oh, yeah.
So
Let's see that.
I don't have any examples off the top of my head, but it's basically just how they frame the question.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just showed you, would you, then you say, of course I would not, and then they say,
ask an answer that there's only one answer, but insert a little bit of information that they can twist. I see that a lot, actually.
Would you support deporting people who, entered this country illegally? Yes or no? And then you'll get, a yes or no answer.
Right.
But then you can taint the question, children or, the marginalized peoples.
Yeah, we used to do this all the time when I worked in a call center because we were doing outgoing calls. We were asking people poll questions. So we would ask them political questions, and you could always tell who was funding it, even though it was usually like a PAC, like a super PAC or something. Like, I don't know what Progress for America is or why they're buying this person's polling data, but I'm reading these questions and I can tell exactly what they want people to say, and they're saying
and you know what? Trump does it too.
Yeah,
I love it. I get these emails. And it'll be like, how would you rate the president's performance in the past year? Superb, excellent, great, other. and I just see it and I laugh.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, meant to be silly. Like, because, I was thinking about this when it comes to the culture war. I was, what's that new PragerU video from Carlin?
Carlin, yeah, she's talking about going to a
great.
Trump rally.
Yeah. And she talks about how the Trump rally, everyone's laughing and singing and dancing. It's like a rock show.
And waving American flags.
And then the Democrat thing is like doom and gloom and like depression.
Everyone's racist and horrible.
Yeah.
I love there's one line in there that just said, make America civil again. And I was just like, yes.
Well, I think
we need that.
It's the true liberals and conservatives that are actually civil with each other right now.
Yep.
And then you have the fringe far left. And this is true. I've said this before, but the far left wants Trump to win. CNN wants Trump to win.
They need him to.
They do. You see, CNN's ratings are going to tank if Biden wins. So what they have to do is pretend they hate Trump while trying to find a way to actually make sure he wins.
Interesting.
We'll see if that actually. I mean, it's an assumption. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying what is true is that CNN has benefited greatly from Trump's presidency.
Okay.
And Jeff Zucker, the president of CNN, he was the Apprentice guy, right? He ran NBC.
Yeah, he ran NBC, yeah.
So they know that Trump is a gold mine. That's why they love that he's in office.
Trump bump.
Yeah, the Trump bump, they call it. The far left feels similarly. If Donald Trump loses and Joe Biden wins, all of these sleepy liberals will immediately disavow the far left. The far left will be marginalized. No one will support them. No one will link arms to protect them because Joe Biden's president. It happens every time. When George W. Bush was president, you had the famous 2004 RNC, where a bunch of far leftists got arrested for having Molotov cocktails and shields and bats and stuff. Then Obama gets elected and they don't do anything. I mean, a little bit. There was Black Lives Matter riots, but that wasn't targeting Barack Obama himself.
Well, there was a lot of Molotov cocktails last night in Portland.
Yeah, they found a couple.
Well, they found a couple, but then there was also a bunch of they weren't Molotovs, but they were mason jars sealed all along.
Where they found them. Yeah,
they found them all. Yeah. No, not the police. The police reported that they found 2 Molotovs.
Oh, but there's a bunch.
Yeah. This is a separate report of mason jars surrounding the fence.
Oh, wow.
That didn't have rags in them, but I can only imagine it was
They were
something
full of
flammable.
kerosene or something?
Probably something
So
flammable.
you could throw them.
Probably, you know?
Yeah, this is one of their tactics. They leave resources lying around for people. And the cops found magazines, loaded magazines, and mason jar Molotovs with rags coming out. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.